Gives the point back over to
Gonna kill everybody.
Oh!
Okay.
Oh,
Baker may be in trouble here. Deathmark tries to clean up. Baker, what was that?
Liquid are doing it. They're gonna take it.
Good evening and welcome to Early Late Nights, the Explosion Network's esports news show, right here on twitch.tv/Explosion Network. I'm Ciaran Marchant, I'll be your host for this evening, or whenever you're listening to this afterwards, I guess. We come live to you every Wednesday, 7 PM Australian Eastern Daylight Time, to bring you the latest news on all things esports. That's Overwatch League, that's Rainbow Six, that's Counter-Strike, that's Super Smash Bros. Melee, fuck it, that's even Minecraft if you want to talk about Minecraft esports. Yes, Minecraft is an esport. It has some building in it. It's kind of odd, but it's fine. Hope you had a fantastic week, and what a week it was. I've really enjoyed this week in esports. We had a lot of fun, specifically with the Overwatch League over the weekend. I've really enjoyed every single match. We'll be talking about that later in the show. The other topics of tonight will be the Super Smash Bros. Melee rule changes that might be coming into effect in more and more tournaments as the year goes on. Also be discussing all things Rainbow Six Siege with the Invitational taking place last week. The overall winner, talk about the grand final, as well as the year 4 changes for Rainbow Six Siege. And then finally, yes, of course, Overwatch League Season 2, Week 1 has come to an end already. We're about to go into Week 2. We're going to talk all things Week 1, break down some of the meta, talk about some things and some of the stories, and then I'm going to go into my predictions for Week 2. This is going to be an action-packed hour full of esports action, but if you're not here live, that's okay. Make sure you, or if you have to leave, make sure you check out our video on demand that goes up 24 hours later at 8 PM on the Thursday on all good podcasting services and YouTube. Please give us a follow on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Explosion Network, so you know for all the good stuff for when we go live, when we're there playing games and stuff. I'm excited. It's been a fun week. Now into the small news stories, and they almost fucked up Australia again. So every time it seems, every time that a game brings Australia or an Australian map to the game, it is quickly picked up on the Americanisms within the map. Within the Junkertown map in Overwatch, it was quickly noticed that several of the signs were just incorrect words for Australia. There was just inaccuracies all over the place. And also, the good old-fashioned Team Fortress 2 character, Sniper, had all the Australianisms that we freaking hate of American push on us. And that is also the case for the Australian map that's just been released on Rainbow Six Siege in the Year 4 update. And I'll talk about more about that update later. But the two latest characters bring with them a brand new map in the Australian outback, in the desert, mate. And it's quite interesting. I'm quite excited. It's interesting to see that how quickly these maps generally get put out and how quickly people start pulling them apart and yelling at people saying, hey, no, why have we got so many? Like, why are you doing this? Why is this all Americanized? It's a whole thing, and I'm always really interested to see exactly how it happens and how quickly. How hard would it be for a company just to bring in a couple Australians just to be like, hey, can you just look over this map? Just look over it. Maybe in the future we'll get an Australian map without those problems, but we'll find that out as the time goes on. Overwatch contenders, hot and spicy, found themselves in hot and spicy water this week. They were the winners of the Overwatch trials for contenders, or Overwatch contenders trials for the Australian scene, but they found themselves in a bit of hot water over the week, as it was found out that some of their players were playing in dubious circumstances. Whether that means that players were playing on Smurf accounts or other players were playing on accounts that were meant to be in the team is yet to be seen. The team has been removed, meaning that Mindfreak will be also moving on with, I believe, Legacy to continue being part of the Overwatch Contenders Australia first season for 2019. Contenders for 2019 is stepping up and ramping up, and I'm excited to see how teams dive into that meta and how overall they will be adjusting to the new stages and the new overall meta of Overwatch. With the Overwatch League, of course, it'll be impacting the contenders scene, bringing with it a full fruition that many of us, we couldn't have seen. Very true. Very true. And also, we've also had consoles seem to be more of an issue in the esports scene coming up. FIFA has coming up to the end of their the Premier League in Britain. I can't speak tonight. It's all over the place. I don't even know. Premier League in Britain has been a bit all over the place with its overall coverage. It has found many new players. The biggest problem with it, though, is that players have been spread for the whole course of the Esports Premier League to, let's just say, be playing on different consoles. They are split up into PlayStation and Xbox, but they're all part of the same ladder. So going into finals, players are now looking at going into maps where the first match in the best of 3 will be on one console, first match of best of 4 will be on a different console. So there's going to be this. I've never understood this. I've never understood why don't they just just play on PC. You can use whatever controller you want. How hard is that, right? That you use a PC for your game. Yes, there are sponsorships with these games being held, but you just play with whatever freaking controller you want to play with. Yes, there might be some latency issues, but I'm sure they'll get that worked out pretty quickly. You would find that it would be more competitive and easier if all 3 matches or first 2 matches could be played with the controller of each person's preference. So I don't realize. I don't understand. It's all over the place. And finally this week, ESL Australia announced that they will be having Splatoon 2 and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate tournaments with the qualifying rounds, 4 qualifying rounds for each happening this March, and then leading up to Supernova Melbourne, where the grand finals will be held. Look out for more. Check out ESL's page for more information on that going forward. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has been carving the way already in a very interesting fashion across the scene. It's in esports, it is going up to its 19th year, and it's fairly interesting to see that it's still holding a very important place within the market. But 19 years doesn't seem to be long enough to change all the kinks or for players to find a rule set that they approve of. Wobbling sounds dumb, wobbling. I wobble in this game, everyone. It's a wobbly game. Wobbling is a tactic that is used in Super Smash Bros. Melee for a certain character, the Ice Climbers. The Ice Climbers, unlike most characters, if you don't know, are 2 characters within the same unit. You can lose one character but still be fighting with the other. Ice Climbers have this tactic of wobbling where you can perform a pretty much unlimited series of grabs on your opponent, almost guaranteeing a win within a match and making it very hard for your opponent to really do anything. This has been a tactic of some dispute for a very long time in the Melee community. Now, wobbling is a serious tactic to get a win up on your opponent, skewing the character choices of do you pick Ice Climbers to use that tactic, but also not being the funnest of mechanics to watch in games. Now, mechanics in games are very interesting to look at because now we're at a point in games like Overwatch, like League of Legends, Dota 2, Call of Duty, where developers can make changes to games on the fly through online updates. A character comes up too strong, they can be nerfed into the ground, raised back up, and then nerfed into the ground again. Hello, Brigitte, you still too strong. Anyway, but the games of old, including Melee, were not so fortunate to be able to do that with. Whatever was released is the game and characters that they're playing with today. Now, I'm interested to see exactly how this happens and what turns out in the coming games. But across the states, in America, several states have now taken upon them to ban the tactic of wobbling in tournament games. This means players can be disqualified or given a match loss if they attempt to use those tactics within games. This started in several smaller states and then grew out with more and more states adopting these rules for their Melee players. It's interesting to see this rule change happen 19 years into the Melee history. And the problem is that players are having to, or organizations are having to put these rules in position themselves. There's no developers reach or change into it. You know, Nintendo isn't coming in and doing a balance patch for Melee. It's 100% a ruling they've had to do, and I think many people are now on either side of this, because some people are saying, well, wobbling's a valid tactic. People do it. Just because something doesn't look too great for viewers or that it's a little unfair doesn't mean that we shouldn't use it. And then people on the other side bring up the points of it skews the character meta, because people will often, instead of picking different characters, will stick with ice climbers and continue to use the tactic to clutch out hard games. Now, people will say, hey, you should just not get grabbed, forehead. Hey, dodge better, idiot. But these tournaments have now come to the point where they are banning the tactic altogether. Now, it's interesting to see in today's climate, in today's society, where the esports we do have are very dependent on the overall meta. No, meta's not. The overall meta, where esports are very dependent on the meta, but the developers have a control of that meta. Even if a meta grows stale, if a meta starts to get gross, developers come out and change it. Melee, it's not been the case. Characters have been much the same, and we're getting to the point in the Melee cycle where new tricks and tips and character stats are no longer found that often, very rarely even. The game has been scourged, and now it's based on pure skill and understanding of the game. There's nothing new to exploit, there's nothing... You know, ice climbers have always had wobbling as a tactic. It's very weird and very strange for me to see this. Now, it's interesting because Melee is taking steps within its own community that are very unlike anything we've seen before. They're in a point where it's an esport that's been going for 19 years. You could say to me, Ciaran, Tetris has been going for way longer than that. But this is a little bit different. This is players directly going one-on-one in games, or however, team battles or whatever, in games with characters that have different skill levels and different choices and meta picks. You know, different characters counter each other, and different characters are played for different reasons. It's quite interesting to see this choice come through now from the many tournaments within the Melee region. Now, if we get to 19 years of Overwatch play, I can guarantee you that Overwatch will be a very different game than the game it is today. Guaranteed. 100%. It's going to be different. As with Dota, as Dota has progressed from Dota 1 to Dota 2, Dota is an extremely different game. Even in my experience of having a year away from Dota 2, the game is completely different. There are new items, characters have new abilities, character abilities have been changed. There are brand new characters, the map's been changed. And this is the interesting fact about games nowadays. The game that you purchase in the box or download on the code, because, minor note, I was still surprised when I recently found out somebody purchased a PC game on disc. It's fucking crazy. Australia, fix your internet so people don't have to buy physical copies of discs of PCs. Just use Steam or the Epic Store or Origin or whatever. But carrying on from there, it's interesting to see that we're having this change where games that you purchase or games that you buy will no longer be the same game forever. You picked up Melee back in 2001 or 2002. That game is still the same game and playable to this day. You play the original Ratchet and Clank or FIFA 2007. It'll still be the same. Updates have changed the way we game, and they changed the way the competitive scene works. Competitively, it's now more about the gamer's understanding, being able to shift with the meta, and we see esports become more interesting and more exciting when metas change and bring new teams to light that are stronger within that meta. We'll discuss meta a lot more in the Overwatch section later, but it's an interesting factor where, in terms of wobbling, what can the developers do what can the organizers do when developers can do nothing? They can come to this decision to ban the tactic whatsoever. But we're going to come to a standpoint where there's going to be a split tournament basis. We're going to have tournaments that do ban wobbling, tournaments that don't ban wobbling. So there's going to be different scenes and different tactics used at different tournaments. Overall, dividing and splitting the scene, which can both be a good thing, but also a very bad thing for future growth for Melee. If Melee continues to grow, I will be absolutely amazed due to the age of the game, but it survived for 19 years. Why can't it survive a bit longer? I'm excited to see exactly what comes of this year of Melee. Many of the superstars and pros are gearing up for their first major event of the year. and we'll see exactly where the landscape is at for Melee, and just how much the Smash Brothers Ultimate hype train continues to mow down for the Melee leagues. Speaking of mowing down people, Rainbow Six Siege is continuing to have a great existence and a fantastic play point in their lifetime. Now, over the last week, we had the Rainbow Six Siege Invitational, where teams from all around the world that have previously participated in different events were invited to clash over the legendary Siege Hammer. Let's look. So, the Siege Trophy, actual sledgehammer. Actual sledgehammer. You get the Aegis of Immortal, cool, you have a shield. Cool, you have some shiny cup. You know, cool. Overwatch League, it looks like kind of like Reinhardt's head, but it's like arty, whatever. Somebody attacks you when you have that thing, you're gonna kill them. It's a weapon. It's an ornament. It could be used for home renovation. God, I really hope that one of the teams use that hammer as home renovation. That would be amazing. It'd be so good. Reddit, help me. Anyway, the Rainbow Six Siege Invitational carried out with the two penultimate teams, G2 Esports and Team Empire, clashing in the grand finals. G2, of course, been here before, won the last Invitational and continue to be an extremely strong team. Team Empire are the unlikely and plucky upstarts that want to smash their way into the competition. I was quite excited to see this game play out, especially with the maps beginning on Coastline, which is an exciting map for Team Empire. And boy oh boy did Team Empire come out swinging. They absolutely pushed the pace to G2. With the first round not losing a single operator in that round, G2 were under the pump, but through some amazing play and teamwork, we managed to see the teams pull it together and push through. Going through 3 maps with G2 coming out on top in the end, claiming their sledgehammer to bust through as many walls as they want to, G2 continued their legacy and growing it into the future of Rainbow Six Siege. Now, for many people, Rainbow Six Siege is an interesting game. It takes elements of our favorites like Overwatch or Dota 2 for the character select or hero-based shooters, while taking the tactical gameplay and almost sudden death and hardcore mechanics as Counter-Strike and smashing them together into this amazing game. This Pro League has such an amazing meta around it. The bans that are featured in the teams, the different styles of decisions with where they're spawning or where they're defending. It's fantastic to see that from teams in a professional level. Now, G2 really did continue to carve their way out, and it's interesting to see this in terms of every budding or every growing esport needs a team that carries a legacy. Dota 2 had Na'Vi. Cloud9 is synonymous with many esports across the esports spectrum, even Counter-Strike, Super Smash Bros. Melee, a bit of Dota 2. You have teams that build themselves a legacy of winning, and this brings the cream to the top. The cream of the crop will rise, they say. And from that, we get more players being able to interact and play throughout the game. We get more people coming to the foreground of the event. And honestly, I'm really excited to see where it goes and how it continues to grow if G2 can continue to be a dominant force within it. Rainbow Six has its own share of personalities that people can get behind and really enjoy. And I'm really excited to see where this goes with Year 4. And the reason I'm excited to go with Year 4 is because Rainbow Six, for me, and it's quite surprising considering how the game started, is one of the best, the most the wellest. What is English? Who speaks English properly? Like, honestly, it's like a whole, you just grasp at it and just turn it around, hey? Rainbow Six is one of the most well-supported games. The team at Ubisoft do a really good job of balancing, continuing to push the game, as well as continuing to make the game feel fresh. Rainbow Six has one of the most competitive and ranked systems in the esports scene, but it was always missing a bit of something. The Year 4 announcements for their roadmap, and Ubisoft's great for this. Ubisoft just in general, like, we've got a game that's ongoing, roadmap, we're telling you what it's got. On the roadmap, that features one brand new map, which we already know of as the Australian map. We have 3 map reworks to become throughout the year. Now, map reworks are so interesting because they're so rarely done in games. They're so rarely done in esports. And so, my favorite, of course, being an Overwatch fan, is that the Horizon Lunar Colony map change. For one, I really can't remember much about the old map. For two, it changed the way that map played. It was much better for both the attackers and defenders for the first point, but then also assisted with the second point. 2 CP in Overwatch has been a brutal, brutal affair, with that second point often feeling like a slugfest. But what we see then is after 2 CP, we have this collection to grow off, to continue to build, where we're now seeing map changes being the way of continuing to adjust the meta and assisting attacking and defending teams. Now, brand new maps are often left, but maps across the board are going to get changed, and it's a really interesting way of thinking about it. Many people from a long time haven't thought about changing maps or haven't had the ability to go in and change maps. To see the Rainbow Six Siege team take maps away from the ranked pool and then rework it, bring out a new map, test it for a while, and then put it back into the ranked pool is absolutely amazing. It's a really interesting way to shake things up. And to have 3 map reworks already on the books is an excellent way to give people something to be excited about for the coming year of your game. There's also a whole collection of new characters coming out, with the first 2 being part of the Australian squadron unit team, which is really exciting. There's going to be a newcomer playlist. As a newcomer to Rainbow Six Siege like myself, it's fairly hard to get into Rainbow Six, especially when you're going up against either well-versed players starting new accounts, and hopefully this new player playlist is going to do well and not just be filled with Smurf stomping. Most likely going to be, but let's hope not, hey? I really like this game and I really enjoy Rainbow Six. To be able to have a good environment to learn the game on and to progress in has been excellent. One of the biggest differences in Rainbow Six Siege from the pro scene to the actual gameplay, which is interesting that there's a big difference, is that the Pro League has its own set of rules as well as bans included, where before maps start, teams will choose characters to ban so they cannot be played by either team for the rest of that map. Now, this was not a part of the Rainbow Six Siege ranked meta until, well, now. Year 4 is going to get the Pro League rulings for ranked, as well as the ban system for the game. And we've already seen this with other games. Dota 2 has its captain's mode was instated as its main ranked system. That is absolutely amazing. Teams can build and create teams more around each other, around what they've got. They can ban off characters, they can come up with plans together, and it's interesting. Yes, it's not always the best system, it's not always the easiest thing to do, but if implemented well, it can do successful things. And I hope other games, Overwatch, will see that doing ban systems in their ranked game mode is a good thing and a positive thing for the game. I really hope Overwatch gets. I always squeeze Overwatch in, but I think esports can learn from each other, just in general. Just look at what esports are doing and learn from each other and understand each other, as we've seen with Apex learning from Fortnite and Call of Duty. Now, what we see now with this is Rainbow Six continuing to be well supported, as well as putting in a new rank for the system above the current highest ranked Diamond. I was always peculiar when looking at the rank system for Rainbow Six Siege, because it's something to do with there's only a very small amount of ranks, and it seems to be very top heavy in the end. And to space that out and to give a new rank above Diamond will be extremely interesting for the scene. Who will grow up in rank? Who will Diamond now flesh itself out with more players? It'll be interesting to see exactly what happens for the scene in the coming future. But I will say the future is definitely bright for Rainbow Six Siege. Now, Rainbow Six Siege has one of the best support teams, as I've already said, in esports. The game always seems to be changing and altering itself for the better. We get more and more teams coming through. We get more and more people coming through. And I'm interested to see how it grows. Esports are now being built for the sake of longevity. They're being built in such a way that people can imagine playing these games for several years at a time. more and more games will come out, but this game will, instead of releasing a new version of that game, they'll just keep updating and changing the game and making it a fuller and better product. Many people asked, including me, I've asked this question to friends and myself before, will there be a Rainbow Six Siege 2? Will there be a Overwatch 2? Will there be an Apex Legends 2, even though that game's only just come out? And the answer really is, why do they need to? They just keep adding maps, they keep adding new characters, they keep changing things. It's not the days of old where they needed to bring a second game out to fix some of the issues and provide new content. We're in the time of downloadable content, and we're in the time of being able to update the game on the fly. As long as developers keep using these tools for the advantage and betterment of their games, it should be fantastic to see these at all. I'm excited to dive back into Rainbow Six Siege and maybe check it out in the future. Probably try and stream it a little bit and really get into the game and have some fun with it. It looks like it's going to continue to grow and continue to be a better place to learn to play. And that's really appealing, especially for somebody like me that enjoys watching the game, but might not be able to get as involved with it because of its high skill rate cap. High skill cap, glass ceiling, whatever you want to call it, but it's been excellent to watch. The Rainbow Six Siege Invitational has been fantastic. I do strongly advise you to keep an eye out for it in the future for any Rainbow Six event, and just even if you watch a match, they're really, really enjoyable, and the Rainbow Six Siege personalities are absolutely great to get around and watch. Now, we've talked about Melee, we've talked about Siege, so I said those at the start of the show. Now, what are we missing? What am I missing that something top tip of my tongue? Overwatch League. Watch League season number 2 is happening right now. It kicked off last Thursday for all you Yankee Doodles and most other people. For us Australians, kicked off last Friday. And boy, oh boy, what an amazing first week we had. It was something truly interesting and truly amazing. I really enjoyed the level of Overwatch that we had. For many people, it was rather unexpected, the level of play and the level of pro interaction and understanding of the meta. We had a whole wide variety of stories being told throughout. And if you kept up with the Explosion Network, you would have seen I was releasing recaps, at least for the first 3 days of Overwatch League. Monday's a tough day, so I'm going to quickly do a overall fixer-upper of today. Well, of day 4, we're going to quickly do a day 4 recap. I'm going to go into exactly what happened. So if you haven't watched for some reason, maybe go watch. You're watching the wrong show. But we'll quickly do a day 4 recap now, and then going into some of the storylines, some of the overall conversations happening with Overwatch right now, as well as taking some predictions as to what's going to be happening this week in the league. Now, the day kicked off, and by the way, this was the most fantastic day of Overwatch League I think there's ever been. I think it was the best day of Overwatch League, flat out, for many people. And that was really interesting to see. It was really high-level Overwatch for everybody. The day kicked off with the Houston Outlaws taking on the Boston Uprising, and Houston had already been questionable with their original loss against... who did they play against earlier in the week? It was the Toronto Defiant when they ran Reaper. Of course, how did I forget? So they came up against the Boston Uprising that many people didn't expect to do very well at all. The Boston Uprising, led by the main tank Fusions, came out swinging. Literally. And Houston kept trying to go one-on-one with them with GOATs. Houston are a good overall team, but there doesn't seem to be any stars on their lineups at the moment. They don't seem to come together that well. They seem to choke at the hardest points, and they don't seem to come together on the GOATs roster, which is something that needs to happen if that comp is going to play out well. Boston, as you see, took out the games 3-2 in our first of 3 games that went to 5 games throughout the day. It was interesting to see the Boston Uprising plow forward, even without Color Hex as DPS player. They managed to do really well. Fusions led the team, and their communication seemed really, really high up. I don't understand just how well Boston's going to do at the moment, considering the meta is still evolving. We're still heavily in the GOATs meta, but this could change and evolve in the coming future. They're a great GOATs team, but I'm not sure how they're going to do on other metas with other comps. The second game was the Philadelphia Fusion taking on the Atlanta Reign. Atlanta had come up the blocks fast with their win 4-0 over the Florida Mayhem, with players like DeFran, Dogman really impressing. But this was a fantastic game in itself. Philadelphia Fusion continue to improve and continue to show that they are a really good team no matter who they're playing against, no matter when. Their GOATs might not be the best, but they did manage to take on and really apply themselves to the game. Atlanta Reign managed to show that they're, for an expansion team, they are here to stay and they're here to contend with everybody in the league. It was really exciting to see this, and I'm really excited to see how the Atlanta Reign continues to grow and continues to improve as the league goes on. Now for my favorite game of the day, match 3. The San Francisco Shock took on the LA Gladiators for probably my overall favorite game of ever, because I was so down on the Gladiators and so hyped for the Shock because their roster looks amazing. To see the Gladiators pull it out in this game 5 was absolutely amazing. I was so happy. It's a little biased, but it was a fantastic game. Both teams played really well. I think San Francisco Shock suffered in terms of its positioning, with Super and Sinatra getting themselves caught out a little bit too often to the LA Gladiators, and it was well done for the LA Gladiators to rearrange how they were playing in a couple days, seeing as they just got 3-1'd by Seoul Dynasty. And to see them improve and come together was a really fantastic thing for the Overwatch League. We're 8 days away from Decay reaching his 18th birthday, and I'm interested to see just how well he shakes up the LA Gladiators roster and continues to grow on it to make it even better. But at the moment, I'm really excited and really confident in the LA Gladiators' growth for the remainder of the season. Seoul Dynasty took on the Dallas Fuel, and for many people, Dallas was expected just to go down quite the same as how they went down to Shock. 0-4. They'd just be terrible. But they came out and dominated the first 2 games. Seoul did not seem like they could keep up. Seoul took on the third map of Voskaya, but when it came to Rialto, Dallas was just too good. AKM was showing exactly why he should have been picked up by teams way earlier last season, and why people were calling out for him to be picked up when he wasn't. He'd been disappointing so far. Effect returned to the Overwatch League over the weekend. Not as great as we were hoping. Maybe he deserves he's more comfortable in a playstyle that centers around his Tracer or centers around DPS characters. But his Zarya was serviceable and he still played well when he was there. But AKM just seems to be stepping up and playing better. Seoul Dynasty seemed a little rough around the edges. Maybe Fisher wasn't as determined to win this one as he was against his former team, the Gladiators. Fleder's bubble control and management as Zarya was quite poor overall. And also we managed to see that Michelle is still a beast. Michelle is probably my shining light of the Seoul Dynasty. I can't say enough good things about Michelle and their gameplay throughout the matches, both against the Fuel and against LA Gladiators. It was a really fun and epic week of Overwatch League. My match of the week went to LA Valiant versus the Hangzhou Spark. This was the most competitive and even game of the whole event. I was really excited to see how it went, and it went the distance and both teams gave it their all. If you haven't watched it or you only have time for 1 or 2 games, I really suggest you make sure you see the LA Valiant versus the Hangzhou Spark. Now, overall, I'm going to give every week, I'm going to be giving my Rookie of the Week, and my Rookie of the Week is going to be Rhea from the Hangzhou Spark. Rhea showed a level of gameplay and understanding of... Okay, Blizzard, thanks. Thanks, Blizzard. Let's Rhea, thank you. Rhea showed a level of gameplay and understanding as a diva player that is really... Okay, Blizzard's just not going to work, fine. As a really top-notch and top-tier diva player that really could lead his team and make the moments. My favorite matchup between the LA Valiant and the Spark was Rhea versus Space. Both diva players playing different roles within their team, but making the calls and making the plays that really changed up the game for both of them in the long run. It was really exciting to see this play out, and overall, I was really excited to see Rhea play in both of his games, and I'm excited for the future of the team. My favorite moment of the week will be the Dallas Fuel taking out Seoul Dynasty. It was such a heartfelt moment. Many people were down on Dallas after their shattering loss against the Shock, and it was really good to see themselves pick themselves up against the Dynasty, who is considered to be a very high tier team, and pull out the win. Make sure you show your team some love, whether that be in Overwatch League, whether that be in the chat right now. Social Socks 33 doing the finger guns, pointing and banging, as his team, the Hangzhou Spark, went very well. And it was, you know what, overall, I was really excited about the expansion teams. The expansion teams did so goddamn well. They did such an interesting, like, I think many people in their power rankings and many people overall thought majority of the teams were not going to play to the expansion teams were not going to play to a standard of Overwatch League. We may have had maybe the Hunters versus Charge wasn't the best game in the world, and Shanghai Dragons, even though not an expansion team, may as well be, had their problems without a main tank. But we've seen a level of class from teams like the Toronto Defiant, the Atlanta Reign, and the Hangzhou Spark that is absolutely amazing. I'm really excited to see how all these teams play out and continue to play in the future of the league. Many people were a bit skeptical, or maybe they were just padding when they decided to bring out more and more people into, more and more teams in. But to have the two divisions actually fleshed out really well now, the freaking Pacific division is stacked. Pacific is absolutely stacked. It's absolutely amazing to see the divisions actually kind of lined up and showing there. I'm so excited to see how these divisions line up in the end. I think the overall level of play was quite good. I think the level of the GOATs playing GOAT in the GOATs meta, which is 3-3, or the casters kind of decided to make it triple the entire time, was really interesting, because I don't think it was as high tier as some of us were expecting. I don't think it was to a level of many contenders teams could probably play GOATs a bit better. Teams like the London Spitfire and Florida Mayhem just weren't seeming to click. It was most obvious on the London Spitfire, who lost both of their games this week. Both of them went down in the first week of playoffs. That's crazy for me. London Spitfire lost 0-2 at the start after winning the grand final so easily last year. Now to see them in this meta, their Birdring doesn't seem to be comfortable on Zarya. Gesture doesn't seem to be comfortable as a main tank in the format. It'll be interesting. I think it requires a meta change for them to come back, so it's going to be worrying times for London Spitfires players, but teams like Paris Eternal, Toronto Defiant, Atlanta Reign are all playing the comp so well, and it's because they have a wealth and depth of contenders players within their lineups. These rookies, as they're called in the Overwatch League, are really stepping up and showing how to play a comp that was not featured at all in Overwatch League just because it wasn't really out. There wasn't time. We saw a bit of it at World Cup, but we didn't see it to the level and the scrim experience of Overwatch League team standards. Overall, I think a lot of people are complaining, or did complain, about the GOATs meta, how they wish they could see their Zarya players, their Tracer players. They're seeing their Zarya players. How they wish they could see their Tracer players. How they wish they could see big popping off moments from Widows. And we're having those moments. We're definitely having those moments, but they're fewer and far between. GOATs overall, for me, I find incredibly interesting. It comes down to the smallest of plays. How does the Zarya throw Grav? Does the D.Va eat it? How do they throw their bomb? Are they looking for Shadow? What are they doing with the support oldies? They're just the minor plays throughout the comp is absolutely amazing. It really, really helps that there's more and more involved in the game to be seen. And I'm really excited to see the GOATs meta evolve and continue. And people think, oh, GOATs are going to be around forever. I think it's going to change dramatically. I think we're going to get more DPS coming in. I think we had more DPS for the first time in the season in Overwatch League. So already in Season 2, they've played every single character. Every single character in the game has been played. And that's absolutely amazing. That's really fucking good. Like, last season, we didn't get much. We didn't get any Torb. We didn't get any Symmetra. Shawfall plays Symmetra to Fran plays Torb. It's like, it was so damn good. And the reasoning for those picks is so interesting. The coaches are now finding a forefront foothold in the popularity of Overwatch. People are recognizing that these teams have coaches that are doing so well. They're so interested in the reasoning and the comp structure and just the overall team coaching that just wasn't a thing last season. You know, coaches like Era and Krusty and Wizard are coming forward into the spotlight where players formerly were. And it's really good to see that in the coming days. Overall, I think all week we had surprising results. I think many of us weren't expecting teams like the Boston Uprising or the Washington Justice to take games or take it to the New York Excelsior as they did. They both, Washington surprised us. I think the one game Washington did play really well, but New York kind of stopped playing properly and played some random goddamn comp that was just a little bit all over the place. Which was interesting to see. It was interesting to see. So I'm excited for this Overwatch League. We have teams like the Vancouver Titans that some people might say they're a bit too aggressive. Some people might be like, Ciaran, if they keep being aggressive, they're going to suck. And to those people, I say, maybe go and do your research. Maybe go and experience the game and understand what these teams are trying to do. Different teams are going to have different playstyles, as with sports. It's going to be a serious part of the game. It's interesting to see this change come forward at this point in the league. It's going to be even more interesting when more and more teams develop their own playstyles. Are they going to be more passive? Are they just going to hold W and headbutt the enemy team over and over again? What support roles? Are we going to get more? I've seen DPS Architect from the Shock was playing Ana. Like, more DPS are playing Ana. Off tanks are playing fucking Sombra. It is crazy to see the flexibility of some of these players, and it's really interesting overall to see how it grows. The overall, I think the Reddit chat, the Reddit rewind, the Reddit crap of this week was heavily brought to you by the talk of power rankings. Now, power rankings are something that's done by members of the community to try and say, this team's going to win, this team's better, this team's worse. But it was interesting to see that people disagree with power rankings. Power rankings are generally wrong. 100%. Because you can be blind as a bat looking at and just not seeing. They're just guessing. They haven't seen these teams play yet. They haven't seen them scrim. If they're going off Community Countdown, they can't go off Community Countdown because it was a sham. Shambles. It was terrible. But it was what we had. And people went off it, but people put too much value in those power rankings overall. They put too much faith and too much viewership in those rankings. It's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Stop doing that, you terrible human being. It's all part of the truth of it, you know? It's all part of how it comes through in your week-to-week watching. And I think now people are getting more and more of an idea of which teams are good at GOATs, which teams are going to be good at adapting to GOATs, adapting the meta to suit themselves, and which teams are going to suck. London Spitfire, looking at you, pal. Looking at you. Now, if you ever miss any of the action from any of the days of Overwatch League Season 2, check out the Explosion Network sometime after, or keep an eye on the Explosion Network Twitter at ExplosionPod. I'm going to be posting video recaps every day that I can. I'm giving you a full recap of the day's events, giving you the hints and tips of which games you should watch and maybe which games you should dodge. I'm going to watch all the games so you don't have to. Make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Explosion Network, to make sure you go get the notifications for when those videos go 100% live. 150% live. Now, there's been a new update brought out. The Chinese New Year event is over. Competitive CTF's gone. My silver rank in that fucking... Sorry, I'm actually going to use my forum. I have a podcast to bitch. Awesome. Overwatch people. If you're going to bring out a competitive game mode, maybe have it linked to the main rank. Because if a player 1 year is a silver chump that is terrible, and a player next year is almost a diamond level player, That's a big change. It's like 1,000 SR. Don't put them back in silver. Truth of the story is, I'm never getting out of silver, like ever, in CDF. I'm never going to play silver CDF ever again, because fuck that shit. Fuck that noise. Just angry. But that also means the brand new map for Paris is out to be played on the live servers. Go check it out and have some fun with that. As well as some minor changes to how armor affects health bars. Armor now sits above shield, so you're not going to save your armor forever. Looking at you, Zenyatta and Zarya, bitches. And overall, I was hardstuck silver. Yes, the MASH live. I'm hardstuck silver in CTF. Now I'm going to, each and every week, I'm going to do the predictions for the following week of the Overwatch League. I'm really excited for this. I'm really pumped up. I'm ready to go. I have my predictions. I'm going to chat about the matches, chat about what you should be looking for, and really go in depth as possible in the week's schedule. Give you those dates and times, you know, everything you need to know. Let's go. Yep, did it. Browser is up. The week's going to kick off with the Washington Justice versus London Spitfire. I think this game's super interesting. 11 o'clock Friday morning. I don't know. Keep in mind, actually, this reminds me. Keep in mind. So, Overwatch League is, like, Overwatch League has been running sometimes 2 to 3 hours behind schedule. Flat out. Because of this tight scheduling, yes, they've now got this new great format where it runs really quickly. They have minimal breaks, which is really nice overall. But the times when you're getting 3 game 5s, like 3 5-game matches throughout a day, that's pushing it out. And for some reason, like, I don't know why. It's a structure where you have to play 4 games for every single one. So either way, they're gonna be out of sync. But whatevs. Washington Justice versus London Spitfire. I think London will pick up. This is such a hard one because it's like, how much does London suck this season? How much are they shit? And I don't think they're that shit. So I'm gonna put London 3-1 over Washington Justice. Washington Justice, I think, did show they have some potential. Even though their roster's kind of minimal, I think Wizards a good enough coach to pull them through. So 3-1 to the London Spitfire for them to pick up their first win of the season. Philadelphia Fusion are going to 4-0 the Mayhem because Mayhem, you may as well have just kept the same team. They're actually terrible. They're actually bad Mayhem. I don't know why. Why did you keep Tavik? Tavik's great, but you've got a bunch of Koreans now. Why is Tavik still here? Anywho, Philadelphia Fusion is going to, 4-0. The Florida Mayhem. Philly are looking good. The Charge versus Dallas Fuel. Dallas Fuel is going to win that 3-1. I have some faith in Dallas Fuel. I don't think Charge is going to be, it's going to be interesting to see Charge be tested. They seem to be playing in their own meta overall. So I'm going to go with the Dallas Fuel there. Seoul Dynasty versus the Chengdu Hunters. I think it's going to be 4-0 to Chengdu. I think this is the map that Seoul Dynasty has to get over some of the hate they've got from their loss to the Dallas Fuel. They need to go out there and stomp the crap out of the Hunters and put them back in their place. I think that is the point that they need to be at, and that's what they need to do to win back some of the faith of their fans. Atlanta Reign versus Toronto Defiant. It's going to go 3-2 to the Atlanta Reign. I think there's going to be an incredibly close game. An incredibly fun game to watch. And I'm excited to see it. It's going to be very fun. And New York Excelsior versus the LA Valiant is going to go 3-1 to the New York Excelsior. I think Valiant are looking good, but I don't know how good they're looking. I'm a bit worried with people with the way Valiant is structuring their roster. Not playing Custer, I'm biased as an Australian, but not playing Custer seems to be a poor decision in general. So to see that is a bit odd, but overall, I think it's going to be a fun match to watch. All games are going to be close. It's just going to be 3-1 to Excelsior. Dragons versus the Boston Uprising is going to be 3-1 to the Boston Uprising. I think this game's going to mean a bit because Gamsu is he moved over from Dragons. He didn't really have the choice. He got moved by the Boston Uprising for money. So to see Gamsu maybe step up could be interesting and have him smash. But I think Boston Uprising Fusion is just play they just play that goddamn comp way too well and way too interestingly. So I'm really excited to see how they come about it for the future. Houston Outlaws versus the Hangzhou Spark. The Spark's going to 4-0 this one. Fuck it. I think, 3-1. 3-1 to the Hangzhou Spark. I think Outlaws are just in a weird spot. I think the Spark is just a better team. Just overall, the Spark is just a better team. So that's all of Saturday's games. Sunday's games, LA Gladiators versus the Paris Eternal. I reckon it's going to go 3-2. No, 3-2 to the Los Angeles Gladiators. I'm going to stick by the Gladiators. The Paris Eternal look strong. They look fucking strong. But I'd like to see how the diversity off GOATs goes, and I think Gladiators can push them in a way that will test that. So I'm interested by that. Philadelphia Fusion versus the Dallas Fuel is going to be 3-2 to the Philadelphia Fusion. I think Fusion is just a more stable roster, as I've already said, and the Dallas Fuel will take it to them, but they just might miss out at the very last turn. Vancouver Titans is going to 4-0 the Guangzhou Charge. I think many teams are not going to be prepared to play the Titans. I just don't think they will, because I don't know how you're going to get teams to emulate what Titans do. Hunters versus the Florida Mayhem. Now, this is a hard game to call. 3-1 the Hunters. 3-1 the Hunters. I think Florida might pick up a map, but 3 to Chengdu Hunters. I think they're a better squad. And then for our Monday's games, remember these two games started at 7 a.m. 7 a.m. It's kind of shit. The Hangzhou Spark will be taking on the London Spitfire. This will be 3-1 to the Spark. We're going to have New York Excelsior versus the Outlaws. That game will go 4-0 to Excel. Toronto Defiant versus Valiant, 3-1 to Defiant, I reckon. I'm really low. I'm really glad one of my close friends, Paul, is not watching this show, because he'd be quite mad at how low I'm putting Valiant on my scorecards. And I just think they have a hard run. I think the Pacific Division is so much fucking harder than the Atlantic. Just so much. Whichever. God damn it. Why do I not know the difference? Fucking. Oh well. Maybe this tell me. Does this tell me? Are you going to load the page? Load the page. Does it tell me which division these teams are in? Nah. Fuck it. Maybe it tell me. I'm just searching, people. Aha. Oh, maybe. No. LA Valiant. Does it tell me? They just doesn't want to. Okay, fuck you, website. Anywho. Yeah, I'm really down on Valiant. I think they were really good, but I don't think they're that good. I don't know. Maybe I'm too far down. Vancouver Titans versus San Francisco Shock. San Francisco is going to win 3-2. As I said, teams aren't going to be prepared, but I think the depth of skill in the San Francisco Shock's lineup is going to lend itself to dethroning the Titans and pulling off some of their overall momentum for the game. So I'm excited. It's going to be an amazing matches. My match of the week that I think you should definitely watch, I think match of the week, either LA Gladiators versus Paris Eternal, or that final game of Vancouver versus the San Francisco Shock. I think the majority of the higher tier teams have easier opponents throughout the whole thing. Maybe LA versus Excel could be pretty good. Shanghai Boston's going to be good. Overall, I think we're going to be seeing a great week of Overwatch. Make sure you check out the Command Center. Command Center is an incredible tool, and it's gonna. Hopefully, they continue to fix it. Its bitrate was quite bad the other day, but overall was a good tool. Make sure you watch your perspective of your favorite player. Make sure you check it out. It's really good. San Fran going to pump them. No, I didn't say that. They're not going to pump them. They're going to edge them out at the end. Yeah, watch the Command Center. Support your favorite player and learn from the game. If you're an Overwatch player, experience it from their perspective. Learn from the game. Hopefully they fix the bitrate so it doesn't suck anymore. But I'm really excited for this week's Overwatch. Hope you're excited for this week's Overwatch League. And you know what? That was all my predictions. That means this is the end of the show. Thank you very much for joining me for Early Late Nights on this Wednesday, the 20th of February, 2019. That's the year, everybody. Make sure you follow the channel, twitch.tv/Explosion Network, so you know when we go live. Every time you get a notification, it says, hey man, we're live. you can come join in the show, chat to me while we're live. If you can't make it to any of the shows ever, make sure you check us out on explosionnetwork.com, where the show will go up 24 hours later, 8 p.m. on the Thursday, as well as youtube.com/explosionnetwork, or our Twitter, or any good podcasting services. Twitter. If you want to follow us on Twitter, get to talk some crap, get notifications for all of our content at Explosion Pod on Twitter, or if you just want to talk to me and tell me how all my predictions were wrong, follow me at your boy Ringo. Thank you very much for joining me on early late nights. I hope you watch as much esports as you can. Enjoy every minute of it. Now remember, always say GG at the end of your games. Don't be salty. And don't you dare be sour. Thank you very much. Have a good night.